Percent of the time, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
Gets the people going.
You're now listening to Diagnonsense.
Look at all this damage!
With Justin Pendergrass and Kurt Honak.
You are a sad, strange little man.
Then we would just be idiots saying nonsense.
Okay, so Kanye
Am I
said
coming
some-
through on the microphone?
Yeah, you're coming
okay,
through.
there I am.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, Justin's on Zoom, everyone. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Behind
Dang
the
it.
curtain, Justin's on Zoom.
Now they know.
Yeah, now they
You
know.
know that I'm at home, and they can probably hear Encanto playing in the background.
They can echolocate your position through the
Doxing
Zoom.
Justin. So Kanye said some crazy things last week.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh!
Can't
I
take
don't
this
know that
guy
I
anywhere.
want to even touch on Kanye ever
Really?
in my life.
You don't want to talk
Yeah.
about I kind of want to talk about how I feel like one of the jokes we made is how like being anti-Team Hitler is the easiest stance to make, just like being anti-Hitler, and Kanye couldn't even do that right.
Oh my god!
Like, it's pretty easy to just say, hey, Hitler, Nazis, probably not the best dudes, and he couldn't even do that right.
Yeah, what was it? 4 days ago, he posted a swastika on
No,
Hitler
he
or
did not.
on Twitter.
I
Oh,
didn't
did
see
he?
that. I just saw the interview with
Yeah.
him going, there's a lot to like about Hitler. I'm like, is there? Like,
Can't take this guy anywhere.
See, this is what we were just talking about before we went live about them taking those things out of context. They're going to clip what you just said, and it says, "There's a lot to like about Hitler."
please don't
They're
clip
gonna
me.
take that.
Please
They're
don't
going to
clip
use
me.
that
No.
against you.
No, don't cancel me.
You're
I'm-
already canceled, bro.
I wanted.
Done.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, just watching his situation, I know there's a lot of people are like, well, this is what happens when Kanye's off his meds or he's got this mental illness. And just watching his situation, I'm going like, yeah, but like how many celebrities have we had where they're on like a treatment protocol and it's like, well, people are like, well, they get off of it because it works so well. And then it's like, well, if they're feeling better, why would they get off of it, first of all? But the second thing is like, if he does have some kind of mental illness that he's been treated for, it's like,
Kurt, if
dude's in post-acute withdrawal, right? Like, or if he's off his drugs, right? He's
Tom Cruise jumping on the couch.
well,
That throwback. You know what I mean? No, he was probably off his meds too. I
don't-
get what you're saying.
No,
Kurt.
Tom Cruise has been historically. He's always been anti-pharma. He joined the Scientology. Remember that? So Scientology is like
that's a whole different
that's a whole other
podcast.
can of worms. But what I guess what I'm saying is like, I saw that and I thought, if he's having some kind of like mania from being on an antidepressant or maybe he's coming off of something, he's not in the right state of mind. But I think the public sees that and they go, this is why we need asylums. This is why we need, forced involuntary treatment. It's like, well, wait a second, people can get like that from taking the drugs, and so I'm just like watching it and watch everybody respond to it like, this is not good. This isn't a win for anybody.
Can both things be true? Can he have like bipolar disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and also like and that is a problem, but also he is not taking his medication and now he's going through withdrawal and that is amping up the effects of that? Like, I think both things can be true.
I mean, yeah, right. Because you got like side effects on the drugs, but then you've got withdrawal effects off the drugs. So yes, both things can be true.
Like he's got a condition that already is causing him to experience negative side effects without medication, and then he's taking medication, he's off medication, now he's having a whole separate set of side effects from being withdrawn from the medication.
Right.
And he's going through it kind of seems like either you deal with not taking the medication and trying to take the holistic approach, and then you don't have to deal with withdrawal, you're just trying to manage your illness, or you find a medication that works for you and you deal with the side effects from that medication. But now he is both dealing with the side effects of withdrawal and dealing with his underlying symptoms. So he's chosen like secret option C, which is the worst of both sides of that. is my take on it.
In a low resolution, I will agree with you in a low resolution.
And that's
With
well, yeah,
low
that's,
resolution.
that
Like,
is
that's-
oversimplifying
yeah,
the situation and making some assumptions. But
Right.
I like
Well, and Kurt's argument is that the crazy wasn't there until he began taking the medications from long-term use.
Potentially.
He may have had
Yeah.
he may have had
possibly.
possible mental health disorders, but it was worsened by the medication and not actually cured.
Well, right. Yeah. I mean, and I think about Britney Spears, right? How many years was Britney Spears going through that? And finally she's coming out like, yeah, these people held me against my will and I've got permanent damage from these drugs they put me on. And like, how many celebrities have we seen, go down that route where, they're on all this stuff and it's not working and they're worsening. And I feel like I feel bad for Kanye in a weird way. Cause it's like, people are saying, well, how do you know that's not an ideological view? Or how do you know it's
I mean,
it's
it could be.
Well, it could be.
We can't. The problem is we don't know, so we can only guess.
Right. And I mean, it could be, but our whole biology is wired to keep us alive. So for you to come out and like do the most antisocial thing you could possibly do, endorsing a eugenics death cult that actually killed millions of people, your biology is not wired to do that. So when I see that, I just see like, yeah, he's clearly got mental health issues, but, I don't think that could be worsening from, exposure to the drugs that they're treating people with, because ironically that's set in eugenics medicine. So it's like, it's just this whole irony to me to watch that. And
Listen, if there's one thing we can agree on, Hitler, bad.
yeah, right.
Nazis, bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we should really be taking away from
It's a pretty common.
We're starting off with a bang here today.
I screwed
Thank
up.
you guys
That was
for
not a
tuning in.
soft open.
Thank you guys for tuning into Diagnonsense. I'm your host, Justin Pendergrass. I'm here with Kurt Honak. How you doing, Kurt?
Doing great.
It's not what we
pretty
were
well.
supposed to be talking
Yeah.
about today.
Hard open.
We're supposed to be doing
was
a
a hard
movie
open.
review, and we screwed
Now
up.
that we
by-
got the hard stuff out of the way. No, I wasn't trying to just kick in there. I just needed to do that intro before
Yeah,
we
no,
got
we
carried
did.
away. Continue.
No,
we gotta move on, or we're gonna just end up doing the whole podcast about that, which
Look,
was not
I wouldn't
the
be
goal.
upset. This is a good conversation.
well, yeah, I think and I don't see that side of the conversation being represented either, where people are like, they're like, either somebody's got ideological views or this is the reason why we need asylums. And it's like, hold on a second, there's more nuance to mental
There's
illness
other
and
options.
ideology than that. Yeah.
Well, and maybe he's got ideological views that are insane, but maybe you don't share those psychotic, wrong views on social media if everything is going right with your mental health. Like, I don't know. I struggle.
And I just don't think that he has anybody like. I think that he may have been this way for a very long time, and that Kim kind of kept him
under wraps.
a little bit grounded. Yeah,
I don't know.
because
It's like,
I don't know a lot about her because I don't really follow either of them, but I would imagine that she was definitely the more sane of the two.
yeah, that's which is saying a lot because she's a reality TV star. And
Yeah, but
it's like when
there's
you go on the
also-
Alex Jones show and Alex Jones, they're putting chemicals in the water that are turning the friggin' frogs gay. Yeah, that guy looked like the reasonable one in that interview. That's never good.
Well,
the thing is that that I am noticing though is that Kanye is searching for something. He's searching for some sort of answers, some sort of things. He's wrong, vastly wrong in a lot of ways, but he's searching for something outside of himself because he can't make sense of the reality that's around him.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. That's
And
yeah.
and when you were completely like, see, I think that like the celebrity world is a completely different world than what we would even know of. It's foreign.
Yeah.
It's
for sure.
it's outer space. It's alien world,
Yeah.
to us, because the way that they conduct things and they do things is crazy. Kanye was doing an interview and he was talking about how he had people who were coming over to his house just to say the name Jesus in his studio because they're not allowed to, contractually allowed to discuss any of their faith.
Yeah.
You know, so he's searching for something outside of himself. He is very, very far off on where I'm hoping that he ends up.
I have a thought about this, but I want to let Kurt go first and hear what he has
Well,
to say.
I just was thinking, you know, when you talk about the celebrity world being foreign too, I just think about the kind of the fabric of our like when I was growing up as a kid, the world seemed like relatively stable, right? Like history was written a certain way. Some people disagree about a couple things, but it's like generally we agree. And like I feel like as I've gotten older, the question has been like, this is what scares me about the postmodernist kind of point of view. And Jordan Peterson talks about this too, where it's like when you have to question history and you start questioning like who is on the right side of history and what the history actually was, there starts to become this breakdown. And I think when you're a celebrity and you have access to like be able to delve into like, you know, post-truth kind of areas, it's like and you meet people that are you know, they might have extremely different point of views and you kind of have time to explore that, then you can go down this rabbit hole too where it's like, you know, what is true. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I can see where somebody, you know, they're put into our mental health care system and then some of these drugs worsen what they have going on and all of a sudden they're starting to question, was the history that I was taught in high school even accurate? Like, you know, like you start to question things where you know, especially if I could see where if you're a celebrity and you have access to drugs and things, you know, not saying that was part of the equation for him, but where you can go down a rabbit hole where people are not helping you get out of, like there's an antisocial push for you to like go more extreme. And I feel like for celebrity, there's some appeal to that because, you know, you're kind of like at the forefront of everybody's mind or like we're talking about one person, right? Yeah. Like today, like, you know, I mean, so right. I just think it's crazy.
I think there's two, I have 2 points. First of all, I want to acknowledge, Justin, I think you bring up a good point, that he's searching for something. I think that the fact that he went on that huge Jesus kick for 2 years, kind of, you know, somewhat out of nowhere, and then just as quickly seemed to just drop it. I think that's good evidence of that. But then I think the point I want to elaborate on is what you just said, Kurt, because I'm a history minor, not a big deal. Kind of by accident. Turns out the easiest online classes are history classes, so I just kind of had a history minor without doing anything extra. So anyway, I'm somewhat passionate about this topic, and you know, history's a weird subject in that with math, there are certain fundamental like truths that we have to assume in order to do math. Like
right.
2 + 2 is 4. It's only 4 because we say that it's 4, that the value of 2 plus the value of 2 equals 4. But also based off that assumption, then we build out from there and have...
You're saying it's so universal that it's objectively accepted.
Correct. But with history is interesting because there is an objective truth as to what happened, but we don't know what that objective truth was because everything that we have of history is always colored by multiple people's own perceptions, and their perceptions determine reality. There's the you know, turn of phrase that's always been, history is written by the victors, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I think history is written by the losers a lot. If we want to stay on the Hitler kick, look at what happened after World War II. You had a ton of former German generals and military leaders write about, man, you know who was just crazy? Hitler. And man, if only Hitler wasn't so crazy, then this wouldn't have gone wrong and this wasn't gone wrong. And man, he just totally screwed stuff up. which was really easy to do because you know who was dead? Hitler. You can put a lot of blame on a dead person very easily, right?
Scapegoating.
So now we have this view of the Second World War from the Germans' perspective is, oh man, Hitler made so many bad decisions. It was crazy. If you went back and looked at it, I'm sure that there are plenty of German generals who have a lot of blame in the tactical process that caused Germany to lose some battles and lose the war.
Oh,
And
that's just true across every war,
right? And was
it's
Hitler
not just
part of that?
One guy up there puppeteering thousands of people.
Yes,
Right.
Right. It would be accurate to say that there were multiple people pulling those triggers out of their own free will and not out of order.
right. So and I think we have this great man view of history, right? Like when we look at the founding fathers, or when we look at, FDR or a Stalin or a Mussolini in World War II, like we pin a lot of stuff on just individuals and kind of tunnel vision on that. When in reality, history is written every day by every person on Earth. And depending on who you talk to, you're going to have vastly different interpretations of what happened. But at the bottom of that, there's still real world events, and there's an objective truth to those real world events. It's just that the interpretation of those events, it totally depends on your own worldview, your own reality, and the information that you have in front of you, 100, 200, 1,000 years after these events have happened, which I think makes history a really interesting subject to study and debate with other people and look at, how empires rose and fall, or how we ended up in modern society today.
But maybe not.
But
not a conversation to have when you're going through drug withdrawal.
So
on live podcasts
right,
with Alex Jones.
So all of that to say, I'm going to tie this back to what you just said, Justin. Is we have an individual that's looking for a belief system in something, and how much do you allow him to say when his perception, right or wrong, it's wrong, by the way, Hitler was pretty bad, is how much do you allow him to say when that is, that's what he believes. He believes
this is a subjective lived experience.
Yes, good, and that's a good way to phrase that. But how much of that do you allow him to say when hundreds of thousands and millions of people can look at the same events and go, man, we have a lot of evidence of a lot of dead, quote unquote, undesirables that the Nazis killed in concentration camps. And we have a lot of evidence of all the terrible things that Hitler and the Nazis did in this period of time. And based off of all the evidence that we have, we can make a pretty clear determination. Nazis, bad. And now we're getting into a free speech conversation. But it's a pretty poignant topic when you look at like the stuff happening with Twitter and the stuff happening that's been happening on YouTube, as far as what content can you allow on a site, what falls under free speech, and what's just objectively hate that shouldn't be allowed, even if you do have a right to express that opinion. How much control do private social media companies get, and what is allowed on their sites? And
can I just say too, like when I was watching him in the clips that I saw, he wasn't necessarily like he was trying to say that, like, basically to humanize Nazis, which it's like, why do you need to do that? Like, but that's what I was getting from, not necessarily that he was, like, I don't know that he was trying to, like, basically say that the Nazis were right, but I'd have to rewatch the whole thing. But I guess my point is just like that he was trying to humanize them, which they were, some of the German people were caught in that machine, and there was no way it was inescapable totalitarianism, and that's the dangers of those politics. Right. And and kind of in an ironic way, the dangers of why, that the emphasis really shouldn't be on humanizing people under totalitarian regimes. The emphasis should be on the policies that allow totalitarian regimes and attacking those.
Well said. And why you don't, like you just said, you don't have to justify how, well, yeah, the Nazis did some bad stuff, but they were just trying to help their country, and it's what they believed in. It's more so like what we should be taking out of this is how, if you really want an interesting historical study, look at how the German people, what were the situations that arose, like you said, that allowed this political party to gain so much power, to take over total control of the government, to turn their democracy into a totalitarian regime. And that is fascinating when you look at the after effects of World War I and the war reparations that were decided on in the Treaty of Versailles. And then you get into a societal conversation about how people can get, like you said, swept up into a view because of mob mentality. And
not just that, but the experimental pharmacology that was going on in the time with the amphetamines and all the, et cetera, et cetera. But like, and not to mention that, during the Inquisition, the Jews had been persecuted for hundreds of years.
Thousands of years.
In Europe.
Thousands and thousands of years if you want to go back to like Egypt.
So you know that more than I do, because I've just studied from the Inquisition on because of the mental health. But so I almost felt like he was trying to be polarizing and that was the thing, that was the easiest cultural thing but it wasn't. It's like still not good taste, and it still looks like he's a crazy person.
It's
because of that.
Like,
but I don't want to pathologize Kanye either, because I don't even know, if he is going through some kind of, post-acute withdrawal. It's like he may come out of that and be like, I started a new antidepressant, or I had gotten off something and I was totally out of my mind. I had believed this thing. And so maybe it's not even an ideological thing, but I think you're vulnerable to that when you're going through psychosis and you're not sure what to believe. And that's why it's so important to have the communal aspect,
Yeah. I think it raises an interesting point on, like, if you're experiencing symptoms of psychosis without medication, where is the line as far as like what are we willing to permanently alter about our bodies in order to be able to live in modern society? Because I feel like
and that should be a question that's asked before we're putting on people on drugs that are altering their bodies, right?
Sure.
But I think that, playing devil's advocate in that real quick, Kurt, what about those individuals who are experiencing those symptoms of, psychosis prior to any form of medication? What do we do then?
You can't just lock people. You can, but should we be
then
just locking
it becomes
people?
that lock them up system, or they end up on the street for, because they can't function.
Like I've said before, I'm not like an abolitionist. Do I think that there's a place for drugs in specific situations under specific circumstances? Is like, yeah, but I think we have to just try everything else before we go that route, where it's like,
that's fair.
Now you have your receptors are permanently altered. Do we think that they can recover? Well, people are recovering 5-10 years, but if you we don't really know if the body is the same, even though people recover, it's like, and then yeah. So I don't know his full situation, so I feel like I'd have to study him more before I even made more comment. But I just feel like that's a part of our culture that we're not talking about. Is like, instead of just going, well, we have free speech, and we have free speech, and people should be allowed to say what they want to say, and sometimes they're completely crazy, or sometimes they're set in their ideological views. We're not just going
it's not free speech when he's posting it on a social media platform. So when it's just like, so for example, Kurt, if you came to my home and I asked you not to say something and you continued to say it, I can make you leave.
Right.
You know,
yeah. Well, and
it's
I'm
my
not
home.
even,
So it's just like
Yeah.
a social media
Yeah.
platform would be considered. It's their platform. They set the policies, they set the
Right.
requirements.
Yeah.
And if you're saying something that goes against what their policies are,
Yeah.
then they can make you leave.
Right.
But that also being said, the government is not allowed to be involved in that. If they do, it then becomes a free speech violation. So if someone is pushing a political party thing and then a government official pays for Twitter to take it down, then they just violated freedom of speech and they're breaking the law.
Yeah, and that's a whole other facet of it. And I don't want to, like, I'm not saying I believe that or I don't believe it. I guess that's another facet of it is what I'm saying. But I mean that's a whole other, like, where do we go from there? You know, it's like,
right. And I would be safe to say that, you know, there's not a social media platform where you can represent Nazism or whatever it is that you want to call it, you know?
Well, because it's an existential threat to the entire
it's terrorism.
democracy. Yeah, I mean,
you know, and yeah, we don't play that, you know?
Homie, don't play that.
So, man, I don't feel like we're gonna get to our movie review today.
I don't think we're
But I think
25
that's
minutes
okay.
in, so
I think that this was a good conversation.
Well, I want to posit one more question when it comes to the social media thing, because I agree, Justin. I think you know, and I didn't even realize, Kurt, like if you're just posting swastikas just because you're trying to be controversial or you're trying to stir things up, and there's no, like, if you're posting a picture of German soldiers in World War II in a historical context and they're wearing a swastika on their armband, like, yeah, that's a little different. If you're just posting a swastika because you're like, guys, the Nazis, were they really that bad? I mean, yeah, that's stupid. You should, like,
You're gonna get canceled for this episode, Isaac.
I have been very clear, and the
They're gonna just
whiny
take your
voice I feel
snippets.
like is a good indication that I don't believe the things that I'm
Nope.
saying.
They'll just pitch shift it.
Please don't cancel me.
They'll
So,
just pitch shift it.
but so yeah.
what
when you-
trauma did your parents do to you? No.
when you're just posting things to be hateful on social media platforms, yes, I believe that those platforms should have the right to take that stuff off of their site. But my question is this: when we're talking about how this is stirring up, and you know, like he's like stirring up anti-Semitic, like, people, he's making people be more anti-Semitic. My thing is, are any of the people that are emboldened to be anti-Semitic on social media because Kanye is being blatantly anti-Semitic and using false narratives to push that point, are they becoming more anti-Semitic,
Well-
or did they always feel that way and now they're just out of the closet about being a hateful person?
Right. I mean, I don't know. I always fall on the side of free speech. I think that people should be allowed to say what they really want to say.
Well, and here's where I'm going to go with
Rich
that.
was
is-
going to be my next question too, because
Well,
where's the line?
but
Because
who's-
right now we're talking about something that should offend the vast majority of the population, and it should not be something
Yes.
that's promoted.
Yes,
But
who's watching
at
that
what
Kanye
point does
interview?
it become like, oh, you like Jesus is anti, you know, homosexual thing, then now he needs canceled, and anybody who posts about Jesus is now that same thing where
Well,
they can't share.
Who's watching that Kanye interview and looking at that and being like, oh yeah, this guy's making some good points. Like it's
You're saying if there's a proclivity towards the authoritarianism and the totalitarianism and the violence, that it's already.
I'm saying,
Right,
like, who
right.
watches that and is going like, oh yeah, this is a reasonable conversation. Anyone that I think is in the right headspace can look at that and go, oh, there's something wrong here. Like, I didn't watch that and think like, yeah, okay, this is an interesting debate. Like, it's just someone that is raving and is completely off base. So my thing is, I don't think we have a situation where more people are becoming, hateful or anti-Semitic because of this. I just think it's emboldening people that were already there to begin with, and now they're just coming out of the woodwork because they, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that showing that makes people different necessarily.
It doesn't radicalize people.
It doesn't radicalize people. It's just the people that are already there.
Well, that's
expose themselves.
I don't think so either, and I don't think that that's why. People. I was asked about Alex Jones. Somebody asked me one time. He was like, "Why do you think that Alex Jones should be allowed to have a show?" And it's like, well, I think that if we see what a person is saying and I obviously he went too far with the Sandy Hook thing, but if we can see what a person's saying, we can identify them. And the problem is
100%.
that when you have this atmosphere where you're not allowed to say what you actually think, first of all, you're not allowed to be corrected. But the second thing is that people can't identify you to understand what you are or what you're a part of, right? And so I it's like, do I think that people that are off their rocker might hear what Kanye has to say, but it's like, well, if they're off their rocker, they might hear anything anybody has to say,
and that's where I was going with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you said it perfectly. Like, let the people that are hateful and wrong expose themselves to the light so they can either be corrected or we can all collectively go, hey, we're not listening to that person.
Right.
I mean, but
people cancel themselves. Back in the day, people cancel themselves.
Yeah. Yes.
We didn't have to police.
We didn't have to do it
who
for
was
them.
being canceled. People were just canceled. Like that was just, it was just like, there wasn't this meta of like, oh my God, we live in a post-fascist world, so we have to generate outrage over things. It's like, no, things were bad. They were just bad. Like, I don't understand where the line, you know what I mean? So
yeah. No, yeah. I think that's exactly where I was trying to go with that, is like, let's just allow ourselves to think critically about whatever is happening, because we're critical thinkers, not because we're being told what to do by the masses.
Well, and I feel like a lot of us who had had involuntary medical procedures done or were, had iatrogenic damage from medical outcomes during COVID. I feel like we totally lost a voice during COVID. It was like, and that's another reason I'm opposed to censorship, because it's like, so if, at some point, are we going to start censoring the fact that if people say that, if they're hurt by their medications that they've taken, that like they're not allowed to have that voice, even though we have black box labels on antidepressants that say that they can cause people to become suicidal. Like, where are we going to stop with the censorship? Because I feel like it's always more, it's always easier to just, everything looks like a nail if you have a hammer, right? It's always easier to blanket censor everything to try and control, but it backfires every time in history, right?
Yep.
I mean,
yeah. Well, that was fun. Sick soft open, guys.
that was not.
Now let's get to the real conversation. Just kidding. Thank you guys for tuning in to Diagnonsense.
Yeah, I feel like
today was an extra special random episode of Kanye West.
Yeah, we screwed up. Whoopsies.
Tune in next time. We'll be talking about Kanye East.
You know what? You know what I think? I think, this releases when it normally would on the 16th. And I think because we just went off for 30 minutes about something we hadn't planned to, we give the people what they want. And Christmas Day release of the Grinch movie review. You guys have one more recording session in you before Christmas time?
Yeah.
I think that we could do another one. I mean, I may just have to do it from here.
That's fine.
Which it ended up sounding fine anyway.
Yeah, it sounds good.
No, I didn't have a chance to watch the movie again before today, so I think this worked out. So stay tuned,
Well,
folks.
I have a list of stuff pulled up on like all the like on my computer.
Justin's Grinch research is the folders
It's
just
on point.
it's bursting at
huge.
the seams.
There's at least 20 things.
Sit down with us on Christmas Day in front of your fire with your hot cocoa and listen to us rant about the Grinch. It's gonna be amazing.
Who's the hero of the holidays?
The Grinch is the hero of the. I mean,
Speaking of that, guys, I got an ugly sweater the other day. That's a Naruto ugly sweater,
Nice.
that seems pretty
which
on
is the
brand for you.
most amazing ugly sweater that I've ever seen. I was trying to outro us to ask Kurt if he had any last thoughts, but Isaac rudely interrupted.
Hey Kurt, do you
And
have any
I
last thoughts? Let me do it again.
I don't. This is.
Down with
Is there
Big
any-
Pharma.
Well said.
Good job, Kurt.
Uh,
And I will like to point out that I have successfully bamboozled Isaac into completely forgetting.
no,
I have done it.
no.
Finally.
So
About
housekeeping.
You can't put it in
No,
now. You
I
have
give
to
up.
let me
I give
bamboozle
up.
you.
No, fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
won this
I'll
round.
admit when I'm defeated. That's it, everybody.
I won this round.
No housekeeping.